Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
FunBelt Podcast.
FunBelt Podcast.
FunBelt Podcast.
FunBelt Podcast.
It's just a great conference that is at a point right now where I think clearly the best group of five conference in the country.
The state of Sunbelt football is the strongest in our history.
And we got to continue to showcase what our league is about.
This league is insane.
Yeah, it might be like one of those 8 wonders of the world.
And you can see just what a great group of five conference it really is.
It's a big deal.
Boy, life is looking pretty good in the Sunbelt these days.
Very excited about the Sun Belt.
We started the Sun Belt back in '76, and I'm very proud of what has transpired through the years.
You know, while other conferences have been breaking up, our conference has become stronger.
Edit that out, Dusty. Welcome back to another episode of FunBelt Podcast. My name's Jeremy Harper from Hellraiser.com. With me is Dusty Thibodeaux from the Warhawk Report and Ben Moore from Panther Talk. And we're going to talk about Sunbelt basketball. We're going to talk a little NSD. And then we have a surprise guest. I'm not going to say who it is now, but when you hear him, you are going to come alive. And that's the only clue I'm going to give you for now. We're going to wait for when he arrives to the green room to bring him out, and then you'll know too. But you'll be just as shocked and surprised as us that he agreed to be on this show. Dusty and Ben, how are you guys doing today?
Great, man. I'm good. It's a little chilly in Atlanta, especially for Atlanta's sake. Anybody that calls it hot Atlanta, I have serious issues with. We tried to stamp that out when the Super Bowl came in a couple of years ago. Tried to educate. That's what we're here to do, Jeremy, right? No, it's good, and the Panthers on the hardwood have won 3 of 4. So we'll get to the hoops take here very shortly. But things are pointed upward. We'll say in Atlanta.
Well, Ben, you said that we're here to educate, and you're absolutely right. In fact, we need to start applying for those same government educational grants as PBS gets. We want that PBS cheddar. Dusty Thibodeaux, tell us how things are going on your side of the woods.
2-0 over the weekend for basketball on the men's side. Oh. What more could you ask for? But I will say this. I think the bigger story, other than ULM getting the sweep over the weekend, Norchad O'Meara is a freak. Pure and simple. And I had guys hitting me up on Twitter and text messages saying, y'all talk about the conference. Does everyone understand how much of a freak he really is? And by that, looking even at the one ULM game, 23 points in his double-double. Okay, kind of a standout. 26 rebounds.
Well, you may not know this, Dusty. I took a little Spanish in high school and about a semester in college. And it's not widely known, but Norchad O'Meara, loosely translated from Spanish to English, is rebounds. I don't know if you understood that or if anybody really has an understanding. In fact, don't fact check us on this or don't Google it, but I'm telling you, Norchad O'Meara equals rebounds. And that 26 rebounds was an arena record set by Norchad O'Meara. But what was depressing is that he set an arena record for rebounds, hit those 23 points, and somehow the Red Wolves took the L against ULM, which was quite disheartening, but it really did provide a little bit of fire for the Red Wolves for the next game against Louisiana. They really stepped up their defense, found some help for Norchad O'Meara, who only had 8 points and 17 rebounds in that second game. So, sometimes you got to lift the brother up. and they lifted up Norchad Omer on Saturday after a thoroughly embarrassing loss to the ULM Warhawks.
I don't think it's embarrassing as the loss that Little Rock suffered to ULM, where they're down 3 and the guy drives the lane, and ULM, aware of that situation, clears the lane and lets him, and then he like airballs the layup because he realized, oh shit, this isn't enough points.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he was hoping to get the and one.
Quite possibly, but yeah, that didn't work out so well for him.
You know, that was the game plan when Mitcha Chickaleka hit that 3-pointer for ULM and put the Warhawks up by 1. The plan was to draw that foul.
How'd that work out for you?
It didn't work out. No, it was depressing. There was some questions regarding the strategy around that. Questions posed by me and ignored by everybody. But it was devastating. But let's stop talking about the fortunes of ULM, because who cares about the Warhawks? And let's not talk about the devastation suffered at the hands of the Warhawks that the Red Wolves had to endure. Let's talk about the surging Panthers, winners of 3 and 4, suddenly coming on strong, hitting 3-pointers, making people look silly, almost allowing South Alabama to come back. I was watching that game. I tell you, South Alabama, very dangerous when they finally get their strokes. That's their problem, though, is that it seems like they have a hard time finding the stroke. What did you see, Ben Moore?
Yeah, it was about as strong offensive first half that I've seen this season out of Georgia State, followed by probably the worst second half that I saw. The Panthers went nearly 9 minutes without a made basket. Just to let you know, you have to make baskets to win. This is not breaking news. No means here on the FunBelt Podcast. They were aided obviously by some free throws and hit free throws there to have that. As Georgia State's actually going the right way, winning 3 out of 4. South Alabama's going the wrong way down the standings, 3 out of 4 of their losses. And they have, some cracks certainly. And they've done that a couple times this year where you have, as we have kind of said pretty much, for weeks, they're very talented. They've got high major transfers, whether it's a chemistry thing, whether it's guys not fitting in their roles, because this is the bottom line. You really have 3 more weekends in regular season, and then it's, hey, everyone goes to Pensacola and sort things out, right, for the automatic bid. So I think this is the time where you want to see teams and keep an eye on some teams that are playing well, that are playing consistent. And one of those teams, I think, certainly is the Troy Trojans, and they're going to be scary. And I think right now it's probably a 2-man race for Coach of the Year with Dustin Kearns at App State and Scott Cross at Troy for that. And you mentioned Norchad a little bit earlier. If he's not Player of the Year this year, I'll be stunned. He's putting up just ridiculous numbers, and no matter what happens the next 3 weekends, I still expect him to play ridiculously well. I mean, I'm looking at his stat line right now. I mean, dude is 66% from the field, 12 boards a game, 17 points a night. He's a problem. He's a problem. And it's not like 6'11" or 7 foot. He's 6'7", all man.
Yeah, he's a big guy. I mean, broad-shouldered, just a kind of a load. But what he's really done this year, as opposed to last year, is he sort of added a couple shots. He added a mid-range jumper and sort of a little soft baby hook that he didn't have last year. And that's what's made him so dangerous this year, is that and he for the most part avoids foul trouble. He didn't avoid it this week, but for the most part he does. But I thought what you said about Troy was interesting. Even a little bit before that, you said you got to look out for the teams that are playing hot now. And some of those teams are a little surprising given the lack of activity or lack of results that they've had early on. Panthers are one of those teams. ULM goes on the road and gets 2 wins. They're one of those teams. In fact, I had counted ULM as being just completely out of the running there with Little Rock. They looked really good. I think having Harrison back it makes a big difference. Another one of those teams that kind of started slow, but seems to have found something is Texas State. Of all the teams we've mentioned, I find Texas State being one of the more intriguing. What do you guys think of Texas State?
Able to down the leading Mountaineers over the weekend. I think that they're still a sleeping giant and still haven't really found themselves to know.
We forget that Texas State won the regular season last year, right? We had the Sunbelt West, Sunbelt East split. They took the COVID title there in 2020. And they've been impressive and have returned a lot. And as we've seen from a lot of the preseason top, I'd say 3 or 4 teams, everyone seemed to have started out a little bit slower, whether it was COVID pauses, and they certainly have dealt with it as well, to finally got to get in their sea legs now. When you look at the teams that have experienced depth and experience in their starting lineup, guys that have been through it. I remember App State had to 4 seniors and 4 juniors basically in the 8 that they play. The Panthers are the same way. You have 4 seniors out of their 5 starters. So you're starting to see seniors realize, hey, this is it. This is it for my legacy. This is it for my college career. They may or may not have pro opportunities next. So you want to see those teams kind of play well, and other teams that honestly need to turn it on as seeding kind of gets a little bit more clumped. What's just more amazing is we're sitting here the 6th of February, and there's 2 games in the loss column between 11th and 1st.
Yeah, it is tied up. It is a completely any man's ball game for the Sun Belt. I'll tell you about Texas State. That Caleb Asbury to me is a legitimate star with the ball in his hands. I mean, this year has kind of been funny to me, Dusty Thibodeaux, in that in years past, I always kind of had trouble figuring out who the stars of the Sun Belt were. None of them really stood out to me. There'd be a couple that you go, oh yeah, that guy can be counted to score a lot of points. That guy can be counted to dig up a lot of rebounds. This year, it seems like you can name, 9 or 10 guys that are just really good basketball players. What do you think of the talent level this year? I know the Sun Belt is sort of just kicking each other's ass and may not be the best basketball league out there, but there is some really entertaining star power.
There are, and I think the biggest disappointment, honestly, has been South Alabama. That is a transfer all-star team, and they just can't get it together. And so getting swept this weekend against the Georgia schools, they were getting blown out by Georgia Southern in that first half, I think down by as much as 15 before really making a game of it there in the second half. Do y'all feel that South Alabama is done for and not really going to be the noisemaker we thought they were going to be?
Last time I checked, and this might have changed after the last 2 games, South Alabama had 2 of the 5 top scorers. I think it was Manning and JJ, and the guys can score. They've got a 3-point guy out there. His name slips my mind, who's just dynamite. But I was kind of chatting with Ben during that game with the Panthers. Now I saw the same thing happen to them with Troy the week before, is that they just get buried by these big leads from their opponents, and then they have to dig out. And it's scary when they're digging out because they start hitting balls and start playing defense. So I don't know. I don't know if you can count them out, Dusty Thibodeaux, but I will tell you this. You can't look at them and say they're a top-tier team in the Sun Belt.
Not at all. Surprisingly, though, this weekend, only 1 cancellation and not COVID related.
Yeah.
The big freeze
baby
of the Mavs. The Mavs lost their game there against Coastal Carolina due to freezes in the area. But UTA took it on the chin from the Mountaineers. Are they maybe having already peaked and on their way down in the standings as well?
Oh, absolutely. I was watching I didn't watch the game. I started monitoring it. They were up by 10 against Appalachian State at half. And I was kind of knowing Appalachian State, they don't just light up the scoreboard. So I was like, okay, well, this might be a game that Appalachian State loses. And Appalachian State, in Appalachian State fashion, found a way to win.
It's just experience, guys. I mean, ultimately, you know how to, there's winning habits and there's losing habits. We talked a little bit about it last week where, you have, and guys, I think Jeremy may have retweeted me or not, but said, bad teams do dumb things to lose. You give the ball away, you take poor shots early in the shot clock, or you don't move the ball. And this is the time of year where, again, you're seeing, this is when you should see the cream rise to the top, because they're realizing, hey, March is almost here. We only have 4, 5, 6 games left before the tournament. That's out of every single coach's mouth. Hey, you want to be playing your best basketball when you're walking into the tournament, and you want that opportunity. And we know certainly that seeding is important because of the matchups, I believe. I mean, there's teams that, I know teams will look at and say, hey, I don't want to see them again. As much as the exhale that happened yesterday in the Georgia State Sports Arena, I was joking. That's probably the last time that I'd love to see South Alabama. They are very long. They're very potent. When they put the 2-3 zone in there, they locked the Panthers up. I mean, at one point, I think the Panthers were 4 for 20 from the field. I mean, that's not something you want ever. So, I wish South Alabama well and hope we don't see them again.
You did mention something interesting too that we just sort of glossed over, Ben. We're talking about who might be coach of the year, and you mentioned Coach Kearns, and I tell you what, I don't know if he's coach of the year. I do know he would be top, 2 or 3. I don't know if he gets coach of the year, he deserves it. But I tell you what, those fans in Appalachian State love Coach Kearns. I mean, they are all in on what Coach Kearns is doing, and have put him on a almost godlike pedestal up there or over there in Boone. I'm impressed with the guy. What he's done with that team is lights out, especially when it comes to defense, and then overcoming that 10-point deficit against UTA, which UTA, you're right. There's something going on with UTA. It seems like David Azori is the only guy that you can really worry about. And that their little 5-game or big game win streak that they had earlier in the year seems more and more like a big fluke. I don't think we can. Listen, I'm the guy who said you can't count on ULM anymore. I'm about to say you can't count on UTA. I don't feel like UTA is going to be a threat anymore. In fact, Arkansas State has a 4-game road trip. And I mentioned everybody about how tough those games are going to be, except for UTA. So I'm already dumping disrespect on UTA. Probably I will get bit on the ass for that. But Dusty, I don't think UTA has anything left. I think they spent it all at the beginning of the conference play.
I think so too. I think when they caught everyone down with the COVID limited rosters, I think that was kind of their Achilles heel, was that they were full strength. Everyone else was not. And now that Arkansas invades Alabama this upcoming week to play Troy and South Alabama, I think Scott Cross is going to make a name for himself in that Coach of the Year award. I think the Trojans are going to wind up beating Arkansas State and Little Rock to complete the sweep this week.
I guarantee you they're going to beat Little Rock. I don't know about Arkansas State. It depends on what Arkansas State you're going to get. But I want to know a little bit about ULM. They got Harrison back. They're playing a lot better with him. Do they have a shot at, making a little bit of roll? Where are Louisiana schools going next?
They host the Texas schools, so they'll have Texas State and UTA.
Yeah, the big games for Texas State.
I think they can split that because I think, like you said, the UTA games, UTA might have already peaked in the season, and so I think that would be a good win. I think any win is at this point in the season is a good win. But I think ULM can get the win over UTA. Texas State, I feel like is going to be a battle. They could win it. They could get blown out just as easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you were talking about Arkansas State coming against the Alabama teams, Troy, and your favorite team, Ben, South Alabama, who you want to play every week. Yeah, I'm worried about that too. I mean, and then after that road trip, they go on another road trip to Texas. Where they'll meet the Bobcats and our new favorite punching bags, UTA. And that looks like a good way to lose 3 out of 4 games. But like I said, there's something that happened after that ULM game where Coach Thibodeaux kind of took the team aside and said, hey, listen, you guys don't need to be losing at home to the Warhawks. You guys need to win this game because if Arkansas State wins that game, it's Arkansas State in first place right now. And they just blew that in front of a home crowd, which was just kind of shocking and deflating. But the fans came out on Saturday. It was a raucous crowd. Everybody likes playing. As Jay Walker once told us, everybody is the Cajuns' arch rival. And sure enough, a lot of our fans feel that way too. A lot of guys came over. The beer was flowing like wine, and it was just an electric atmosphere. So I feel like the fans are finally getting behind this team, sort of understanding what they've got. Desi Seals finally put up some points, got out of his funk. So if we can get that team to come to Troy and come to Mobile and do some good, I feel like Arkansas State will have a good legitimate shot of coming away with some wins there.
On the women's side, it continues to be UTA and Troy. Troy kind of got back in the winning ways there after falling. They've now won 4 straight. They had 50 points in the paint against South Alabama. They're a big physical team, not a perimeter shooting team, shooting only 26% from 3-point, and they lead the conference averaging 50 rebounds as a team. The Lady Trojans are just dominant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks honestly, and we talked about it on the men's side, you see teams that are streaking, right? You get out there and you say, all right, who's playing well right now and who's not? Texas Arlington's playing very well. They're at the top of the standings with Troy. Keep an eye on Texas State on the women's side too. They don't have a great overall record, but you're sitting kind of in the back there, 3 winners of 3 in a row, only 2 games back in the loss column. So you could have a fun finish there the next couple weekends on the women's side, and that's what you want, right? If you're a team right now and in February, you're looking up with 5, 6, 7 games on the calendar. You want to be in the mix. You want to have a shot and say, hey, go get a regular season title. Because as we know, due to the TV contracts as well, if you're a regular season title holder, you're playing postseason basketball. You're going to the NIT or the women's NIT, and that's you're continuing to go and you're playing March basketball, which there's only out of the 350 some Division I teams. To say you're still playing after others are not is certainly an accomplishment.
An anecdotal story here. Arkansas State was supposed to play ULM at ULM on Thursday, had a leak in the roof of the basketball arena. We had to postpone that game. Now, I want some answers from you, Thibodeaux. Are the donors just not coming in and bringing enough caulk?
The mold and crap on top of Fant Ewing Coliseum would have been a nice impenetrable seal of Fant Ewing, but apparently it was not. Yeah, I mean, it's not good when your facilities aren't up to par and you got to postpone games. Luckily, Arkansas State has to come back through the Monroe area after going south to Louisiana Lafayette, so that game will be played Monday night. But at the same time, it's almost why do we have to play it? ULM, losers of 11 straight, 0-8 in conference play. It has not been competitive.
You know what? I'll tell you the reason.
They have traditionally won one conference game. Outside of the Arkansas State game on Monday, they will play at the Texas schools. Write it down that ULM will wind up going in and beating UTA just because that's the way the Warhawks roll.
Well, I tell you exactly, not just for that reason, but there's another big reason that we've got to play that game is because Arkansas State is completely falling apart without their best player, who is out for the season. She has a torn ACL, I believe. And ever since then, they have not been able to pick up a win. So we were counting on that ULM game with the ULM Warhawks women being in such disarray right now. We needed that W. And to have that game canceled was a big blow to everyone. But we are glad that they rescheduled. It's good that is it amazing to me that somehow a game that's postponed can be rescheduled and have it happen again? I know that they were coming back through, but it seems like if the women could do it, the men could do a little bit of that too. That would be right. And then, of course, something also Ben had said earlier about the men's, or I think we've all said it. Maybe Dusty said it. I'm trying to give somebody credit, but we're talking about COVID and how crazy COVID made the beginning of the year. that worked for the women too. In fact, in some ways, the COVID hit the women even harder. So now we're about to see who's really good and who's really not. And it looks like it's going to be UTA and the Detroit Trojans.
Yeah, just 3 of the 11 teams on the women's side have played the full 10-game slate to date. So, it's definitely been impactful on that side as well. Shifting gears, this past week was Christmas in February.
Oh.
National Signing Day, where we get to see the fruits of all the recruiting rumors, all the official visits pay off.
Yeah.
With different teams around the Sun Belt Conference announcing their signing class. Huge signing day in that Georgia Southern was actually kind of the one that came out on top, at least with the biggest name, with Terrence Gibbons, a 4-star running back out of Winter Park, Florida, making the commitment to go to Statesboro. He was a one-time Florida commit, part of the Rivals 250 at the time. I think it's exciting. Anytime we can get that level of talent in the conference, it's just going to help project the conference even bigger, better, faster, stronger.
Well, right away, I think Clay Hilton sort of justifies whatever mysterious investment Georgia Southern has invested into Clay Hilton. And that's kind of why to me, that's why you make that splash hire, is that the recruiting benefit is going to be big right away. They're going to have those connections. He had probably been talking to that kid long before he had ever been involved with Georgia Southern. I don't know that for sure. I'm just thinking that might be the case. And that's why sometimes I think maybe Louisiana kind of missed the boat a little bit about staying in house, when they could have had that juice to bring in somebody that had some really deep connections with some really big talent. But yeah, good for Helton for bringing Georgia Southern that kind of notoriety. And quite frankly, that program needed it.
I thought it was interesting also that they signed 2 quarterbacks. One was kind of a pro style. One was kind of a option based. It's like they're kind of dipping their toes of getting away from that triple option. But just in case, we're going to have our guy that can run the triple option.
And they went out and hit the transfer portal as well, which is the presumed starter from my conversations with some guys down there, someone with experience. So you're not just rolling out basically 2 freshmen to say, here, kid, get you some. And I think that will help. They still have obviously some scholarships available. Now it's really a full Clay Helton spring practice too. And as we know, the transfer portal never stops. So they could certainly sign some guys continuing in April, May, June, and getting guys on campus for summer. But, they definitely had a splashy name. But I will have to give a hat nod to Jeremy's Arkansas State Red Wolves. This is Butch Jones's second class, and they take home the title in the 24/7 rankings as the number 1 class, which certainly should be commended. We know Butch Jones's background. We know he's an elite recruiter when it comes to identifying talent and reeling them in. Been pretty impressed by that haul that he got there in Jonesboro.
Yeah, A-State fans very happy with that. And that's one, again, kind of like with Coach Helton, you bring in a guy like Jones, not necessarily for the X's and O's, although X's and O's are good. You bring him in because you want to see talent that you normally don't get come into your door. And that's what he and his staff have been able to do. When he took the helm from Coach Anderson, he inherited a team that didn't have any first or second team Sunbelt preseason all Sunbelt players, and there's a big reason for that. We just didn't have that talent anymore. It wasn't there. It was gone. There's probably a million reasons why Anderson wasn't able to bring that in. I won't think about them or to discuss them right now, but Jones came in and said, hey, listen, I got to bring in some better guys. Appalachian State's bringing in great guys. Georgia State's bringing in great guys. All these guys are bringing in great guys, and we're bringing in sort of reclamation projects too often. So that's really good that Jones has been really concentrating on offensive line. He's been concentrating on the defense, brought in some really good guys, transfers from like Alabama. So we're very excited about that. But one thing that you just mentioned about Georgia Southern and the guys that they're bringing in, the quarterbacks, for instance, Benko told us, he was like, hey, or the AD for Georgia Southern, he said we kind of teased him a little bit. Said is the triple option dead in Statesboro? And he kind of ruffled a little bit. He was like, "Hey, we're not just a triple option school. We do sort of a triple option, but it's not real triple option." He kind of hemmed and hawed about that. So I feel like everybody's sort of at least kind of on that page to move away from the triple option in Statesboro.
I think the guy in the signing class for Coastal Carolina that I'm most excited about, DeAndre Coleman, a composite 4-star receiver there from 24/7. Guy had over 1,200 yards receiving. I think this could be the new Isaiah Likely of the Chants.
Yeah, it seems like the Chants really reloaded. Ben, I'd like to hear your opinion on that. You guys are much closer to me, but all I saw from national pundits like The Athletic talking about how good the Chanticleers did in terms of the transfer buyer and recruiting.
Yeah, and I echo Dusty's thoughts on Coleman. He actually is from the exact same high school as Jameis Winston there in Hueytown, Alabama. They've done a really good job at kind of hammering Florida. That's where I think the vast majority of their class is from. They do sprinkle in Georgia. They obviously use the transfer portal well as well, stealing from Georgia State as well, bringing back native son Sam Pinckney into the fold, who is from played high school football in Greer, South Carolina. So he's going to be suiting up for the chance. And as Coastal actually comes to Atlanta to play Georgia State, there'll be a little bit extra in that game with one of the former players there. They're already a rival, but that's always the next question too. Finding the next guy to potentially replace Grayson McCall, or if he is not ready, a guy by the name of Bryson Archie here in McEachern. In Powder Springs, Georgia, just one of the suburbs of Metro Atlanta, one of the top quarterbacks in the state of Georgia in a loaded class this year with one of the top players there. So you see Jamie Chadwell and his staff being able to kind of spread their wings and grab guys. And I think they do have some opportunities and scholarships available too. So if there are guys who may, fall out of favor at a Power 5, may look up and be third string at the end of spring practice, they still have spots available and certainly have put together a good class which could be even better.
So Dusty, you and Ben have your fingers on the pulse of recruiting in the Sun Belt. I really would like your thoughts on the weirdest recruiting philosophy of the Sun Belt, and that's of Texas State. What did they do?
So they went in the portal. They actually got your quarterback there of Lane Hatcher.
What?
In all indications, he's destroying the film room while he's at Texas State and going all in to really make a big name for himself there.
That sounds like him.
I think that he's going to be the difference maker this year. I think that is going to be the starting quarterback for the Bobcats come the fall. I think you'll see a good competition for that position during the spring. But I think it's Lane Hatcher. Whether or not that's a true signee or not, I think it is, because you still got to court him. You still got to get him on campus and make sure he stays eligible. That's definitely a recruit in my eyes. So I think Texas State wins the transfer portal battle as well. And I think that's one of the best recruits. If you want to look at it, including those transfer portal guys, one of the best recruits of the Sun Belt Conference.
Well, in Lane Hatcher, you get a guy who's ready to start right away. That's for certain. And he is, without a doubt, a film room rat. Or he just likes to study film. He likes to be prepared. Being prepared is one of his favorite things to do. He likes to have a good rapport with his wide receivers. Didn't work out with Arkansas State, although he set a lot of passing numbers, or put up a lot of great passing numbers that were just incredible. I think you're probably right, because it seemed like what was missing a lot from Texas State, they always seem to have potential at quarterback, but that potential never seemed to coalesce. There was always a guy, like whether it's Vitt or the other guy that they had from, like, I think Arizona State. They always seemed like they were going to be the guy, and it didn't quite happen. If there's anybody who can provide some leadership for that team, it would be Lane Hatcher.
Yeah, they went and grabbed Dominic Ratliff as well from Louisiana, another Belt to Sun Belt, connection there. As we have talked about Louisiana, basically the floodgates have opened there. They have lost a ton. I know we haven't talked about them yet with Billy Napier leaving to Florida. That entire roster, not only as Jay Walker told us a few weeks ago, just talking about the seniors and Levi Lewis and everyone exiting, but they have lost a tremendous amount of talent to LSU there in state. Some guys have followed him to Florida. Obviously, some coaches, admin have followed him as well. I'm very, very interested to see what Louisiana looks like at the end of things, because they did have a decent for them signing period, but you have a brand new coaching staff, right? They lost a lot, only signed, I believe, 12. So that's a pretty small class. So they're going to have room. They're going to have playing time available, as we have seen, as they lost some starters and some guys that certainly were impact guys there in 2021. So very interested to see DeSormo's first class, what it ends up looking like, and if they do have to pound the portal just to fill some holes there.
Pound the portal. You know what? The portal gives you a lot of alliteration options. I call it portal poaching. Is something that I say a lot. Pound the portal will be one of my new favorite ones to go with. So once again, this is the education layer that we bring for our viewers, for our listeners of this show. So our federal grant makers, if you're listening, we are accepting federal grant money at any time. We prefer not to apply because neither of us know how to read or write. Thibodeaux, what about the Warhawks? How do they do in the during National Signing Day? Has Bowen worked his magic?
Bowden. He only had
not the AD of Arkansas State. I'm sorry, Bowden, the head coach of Terry Bowden, the head coach of UL.
Bobby's kid, that guy. Yeah,
yeah, Bobby's kid. Yeah, that would go over real well with the interview in him. The Warhawks were limited on scholarships. A lot of blue shirts from last year, still trying to play with the numbers and see who's on scholarship, who's not, who's going to transfer in, out, whatever. Warhawks only had 4 available scholarships for the spring. And so they took 2 guys. They got a junior college defensive back and a huge interior lineman out of St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Had several SEC offers, had offers also in the conference from Coastal and Southern Miss. Rich Rod at Jacksonville State really went out and tried to poach a lot of the ULM prospects, and it worked. He was able to flip several commits over. So kind of big that ULM was able to hold on to him, knowing that they were dangling the huge carrot of, come make a name for yourself in Conference USA with the Gamecocks over there. It'll be interesting to see. I think ULM is still missing a lot of pieces to really be competitive. And I think going into the spring, there's way more questions than there are answers. But this is really the first year of the rebuild of the Warhawks by Coach Bowden, just because last year, by the time he came in, over half his class was already signed for. So he didn't get a chance to really go out and get his guys and get ready to be the difference maker and really flip that roster over. So I think a lot of guys have left in the portal, so that should free up some spots. But at the same time, with all the blue shirts that they have, it's very hard to try to get the missing pieces when you don't have any scholarships.
It seems like, and you guys are the experts on this, not me, but it seems like this blue shirt sort of situation is common in and around the Sun Belt. I know Arkansas State had issues where they couldn't get a full signing class few years because they just had so many commitments to the blue shirt, gray shirt, whatever you want to call it, all these different hues of different classification of signees. How do you get in trouble with that? How does that happen?
I know from Georgia State's point of view, they have been had a pretty good track record with blue shirts, quite honestly, just simply because guys that were either injured in high school. I remember one of the starting offensive linemen was also a wrestler, hurt himself in a state meet, tore up his shoulder pretty bad. So it was one of those scenarios where he went ahead and, enrolled, basically skipped that semester, enrolled in January to preserve his time there so he could kind of get the rehab and work there. It's also, due to numbers. Also, back in the day, it used to be an academic thing where you had guys that would potentially be partial qualifiers and maybe needed like one semester of a junior college, or, hey, I need to go go get a summer school course or things like that. There's a lot of different elements to it. And I think ultimately something that all the Sunbelt schools have to do post-COVID and post the NCAA mandated extra year is roster management. It's humongous because you have to realize, hey, there are seniors that want to come back, 85-year-old tight end Aubrey Payne, who was given his 17th year of eligibility the day before yesterday for Georgia State. Shout out to Aubrey. No, he will be as old as his position coach, friends. He's actually caught a touchdown pass from his position coach. I think that's a first in college football. But no, I mean, you have to be able to know and the coaches know and balance as well. Hey, we have guys that have produced and are on our 2 deep, and we want them back and have that extra year. Do they want to come back? So you have to have that marriage. But then also, are you stunning the growth from a guy who is just outside that you recruited and said, hey, I don't want to sit on the bench for another full season or get less reps than I would. So it's really a balancing act. And as I've told a couple people in the last few weeks, this is certainly the age of player empowerment. They know, hey, if I don't play, I can jump in the portal and be immediately eligible. So I think you're starting to see the wave as well from the 2020 to 2021 classes that didn't get a chance to have official visits and going to campuses, and they sign maybe sight unseen or just talking to coaches. And as we still see, there's coordinators moving, all around. There's position coaches that are moving all around. There's new relationships that have to be founded. And the transfer portal is an option for everybody. And then, as you mentioned, the poaching that goes on. I know I've heard conversations and rumblings of 2 Power 5 programs that have called upon several Georgia State players again this cycle. That happens through parents or trainers or, different things like that where they're reaching out. And programs at the Sunbelt level where you have guys that pop and may have a good year, the Power 5 teams can reach out to them and say, hey, you jump in the portal, I got a spot for you. It's pretty enticing.
I think that was what the big fear was, right, about the portal, that the G5 would somehow become the sort of minor leagues for the Power 5 who could. I don't know what, I don't always know the recruiting rules, Ben and Thibodeaux, but it seems to me that it's a little dicey around contacting another team's player and sort of even hinting that there might be room for them on your roster if you were to leave that roster. I mean, is that common? Does that happen?
Apparently everyone keeps in touch with their old high school coach because there's no limit to you contacting your high school coach, the college coaches contacting your former high school coach. And there's a lot of coincidental meetings.
So your old high school coach then becomes sort of the conduit to that.
It's the old bump rule, right? I just happened to bump into the high school coach recruiting in the open period. I'll tell you, a name that will be very interesting, and we'll be talking about it in August. Jordan Strawn, who led the nation in sacks, in 2020 for Georgia State with 10.5, the outside linebacker rush edge position. He jumps into the portal. I get notified from our 24/7 national guys who do a great job kind of monitoring the names in the portal and who's going where and who's jumping out and things like that. And basically notified on a Saturday afternoon saying, hey, Jordan, just a heads up, Jordan Strawn is in the portal. And that's weird. So started reaching out to people and actually reaching out to Strawn's dad and said, yeah, indeed, it's true. He grew up on the border of Georgia and South Carolina, and literally within 36 hours, he was, hey, he's a member of Shane Beamer's first class there at South Carolina. Oh, by the way, to add a little bit of intrigue and soap opera, Georgia State opens the 2022 season in South Carolina against Shane Beamer. So I would imagine there's probably going to be a very tense handshake pregame between Sean Elliott and Shane Beamer. So that should be fun. I'll be there in Williams-Brice Stadium to see it live. So that'll be a lot of fun. It'll come up in August. But I think that's the difficult part about it. Also, you throw in the element of NIL into the mix. You have these Power 5 teams who are saying, hey, you come here, we have this, war chest of boosters who are willing to give you money. We saw the not so I'd say quiet rumors that were talking about Texas A&M. One of the reasons why they landed 7 5-stars is because they had a booster fund set up there once guys enroll. It's happening. Unfortunately, it has happened for a long time. It's just now it's almost legalized. And I think the NCAA has tried to wait and rely on, federal, folks to step in and talk about, all right, these NILs, these kids, basically we're just setting this money up for you to come to Arkansas State or you to come to ULM. And I heard an interview with Georgia State AD Charlie Cobb, and he talked about it, that at the Sunbelt level, it's almost like AA baseball. You have the major leaguers there at the Power 5, and AA baseball, that's kind of the money that we're seeing. There was, I think, 11 players in 2021 from Georgia State that signed NIL deals, clothing, things like that. Not a lot of money, but walk around money.
Yeah.
But you're talking about Power 5. I mean, Nick Saban said it at SEC Media Days that before his quarterback took a snap at Alabama, he was a millionaire due to NIL attachments and things like that. Now, I don't know if that's factual or not.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, I think
that's a liar, but that's a whole lot of money and very, very tempting, even if it's just a conversation with somebody in their family.
When the NIL first kind of bubbled to the surface, I think that the intention was walk around money. It wasn't you're going to get rich being a student at Texas A&M or wherever. You were going to be able to make enough money to pay off some bills or to be able to, go take your girlfriend out or whatever. It wasn't ever really intended to be, let's make, this quarterback at this place a superstar endorser of Chevrolet. That just wasn't what it was supposed to do, but that's what looks like it's going to happen. Speaking of some of the big name, a lot of big name coaches are grousing against it, but we have heard. Can we talk a little bit of news about what happened to former Sunbelt coach Brian Harsin? Is there rumors floating around?
Things are not good in the Harsin house. So let's just say I think he was on vacation. And his players are now literally right now on social media asking to speak with the president. So if that happens, things aren't going well.
It was like the cat's away, and then the mouse came out mice came out to rebel. Yeah. So
I saw there were protests and counter protests today in Toomer's Corner there in Auburn. Guys wanting him to stay, guys wanting him to go. My understanding is that it was pretty toxic culture there, and we saw it. That's why Caleb Nix wanted to get out of the plains and go elsewhere.
Here's the thing about Coach Brian Harsin, who had 1 year at Arkansas State. He followed Hugh Freeze. He was at the time, I believe, connected with Texas. I think he was an offensive coordinator at Texas at the time. Came over and I really was excited to have him because he's a young guy. He had a lot of juice in Texas. I thought this guy's going to be a big recruiter, but he's also going to be a good role model because he's so close to age to these guys. As the months went on, he was a really aloof guy, just hard to talk to, hard to get to know. And not in like a quirky way. Hugh Freeze is kind of a not Hugh Freeze, I'm sorry. Gus Malzahn is a quirky guy. He's almost like a idiot savant in a way, where he's just football all the time. And you can't really talk to him about, what TV show you've been watching. Coach Harsin was just different in that you could tell you just couldn't connect with him. And then there was a time where Arkansas State got beat by Memphis, and by a bad Memphis team. They ended up only winning 2 games that year, and he never really understood how badly Arkansas State fans want to beat Memphis. We just want to beat Memphis. You got to beat them, and he just didn't seem to take the game seriously. Of course, he got blasted on Twitter, and he just blocked everyone. He blocked me. He blocked all the guys covering him. He blocked all the fans. It was nuts. And it wasn't just him. He had the Arkansas State Twitter account block them all too. I had to like petition myself. I was like, hey, you gotta let me back in. So, and it's kind of a joke around at Arkansas State. Have you been blocked by arson? It's sort of a badge of honor. And when he left, everybody kind of sighed a little bit. It's like, okay, it's fine. You know, Brian just didn't really fit in here. He just didn't fit in at Arkansas State. And they went to Boise and seemed to do great. And then he comes down to Auburn. And it seems like the same thing kind of happened.
Keep in mind, he's from Idaho. Okay, so you someone knew, certainly with the conversations with the vaccine and things like that. He got very, very prickly about that. We know, certainly all of us have lived in the South, you know, below the Mason-Dixon line, and especially when the SEC, I mean, they're monitoring Instagram, you know, what post did his wife like? What did the players like? It's truly incredible, the level of detail that we have seen in this, I'll put air quotes here for our listening audience, reporting. But it's been pretty incredible. And, you know, to see what will happen. And we know certainly at the Power 5 level, the college boosters and the guys with a lot of money, they run college athletics, and they say if something's not right, they're going to fix it. And here's the money to do it. I saw somebody post out whatever the buyout numbers would be, and he would certainly rocket to the top of the list for buyouts. I believe.
Oh, he'll do well.
Yeah, he'll do just fine. He'll be able to go back to Boise and.
He'll be a millionaire. But I'll tell you
what,
Ben, you're absolutely right, Ben, about the South. If you can't drink whiskey with the boosters, and maybe play golf with them and those type of things, if you can't rub elbows with guys outside of the gridiron, you're not going to do well.
100%.
And they will find a way to backstab you. There seemed to be kind of some booster backstabbing going on with this Auburn situation. And I don't think Carson really understood that. I think he gets protected up there in Boise. Well, he probably, the way he does things is probably a little more common. But if you're not like a good old boy, a good old boy coach, I mean, you saw, Brian Kelly immediately become a Southerner as soon as he took the LSU job. And he's out there doing
family.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do that. I mean, we laugh at it, but you kind of have to do it. And Harsin just isn't that kind of guy who's going to do that. I think he's paying that price.
So speaking of Brian Kelly, what are y'all's thoughts on his creepy recruiting videos there that he did?
All right. First of all, I thought Terry Bowden was doing some really goofy videos to start the season. He was sitting in the swimming pool. He was doing some other stuff. I thought this is some goofy stuff.
The gold jacket.
It works.
Awesome.
Those things kind of work. You get people to go, oh, it's corny, it's stupid. But when it's your guy, you kind of get behind that. Oh, look, he's kind of ingratiating himself with the kids. He doesn't mind, eating the gumbo and putting on a Southern accent. So I think that's, in the end, that's kind of as a head coach, that's what you got to do.
And I think ultimately you have to, this Gen Z, that they're doing a lot of things, obviously for Instagram and TikTok and Snapchats and the videos, and that you're seeing folks who are a lot more intriguing on the videos. And then of course he doesn't sign that specific prospect he gets pictured with, which just makes it worse. He goes to Alabama, but
that is always embarrassing. Yeah,
but the coaches have to do it, and they know that.
You have to do it.
These coaches don't want to be on Twitter, but they have to be. They don't want to shoot these videos, but they have to be. That's what these kids want.
So this is a good segue, because our guest has just arrived. I want to introduce him as a consummate Red Wolf, a man who made some really good numbers, especially in 2011. The first year of what I look at as the Renaissance year, or of the golden years of Red Wolves football. I'd like us all to welcome former wide receiver for the Red Wolves, Dwayne Frampton. Dwayne, how are you doing?
How you doing, brother?
Welcome to the show. How are things going? Last time I saw you, you were at the GoDaddy Bowl with interim coach David Gunn, I believe, was the one coaching the game. Hugh Freeze had taken off. What's been up since then?
A lot of training, giving back, a lot of mixed martial arts, a lot of jiu-jitsu. Yeah, a lot of that. And I kind of took a break from the football scene for a second just because, it was a lot of critics out there without credentials, teaching these kids some things that, don't necessarily translate to the game of football. So I kind of got overwhelmed with it and start fighting again, kind of release some stress. But then I had to come back into it, man, because my love for the game is just too high. So I'm back now.
Yeah, I've seen you on social media. It looks like what you're doing is really taking off. How do you get back? You said, I just got back into it. How do you get back into it?
Well, I mean, like I said, I kind of took a break from it because I was focusing on MMA, just battling a few things that I was going through on my own mentally, you know what I mean? And getting back into it, just, reaching out to the contacts that I have at the Division I level, trying to get kids who I feel are worthy scholarships, legitimate ones, you know what I mean? Committable ones. I've noticed a lot of Twitter offers, blessed to receive, and nothing is committable come signing day. And then I noticed that a lot of these individuals, and I'm not at liberty to speak on detailed names because I don't know them personally, but I've heard certain things through the grapevine that, they're being charged hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes to get a kid an offer that just comes out to not even be an offer, when it's time to sign. So it kind of hurt my heart, man, because I know what it's like to get a scholarship. You got to work for it. Our Twitters we didn't have Instagram when I was at A-State. So, it was a little different for us. So that's what I meant by getting back into it, man, just doing things right, or at least trying to.
So Dwayne, you go from inner city Los Angeles, staying right there to a junior college there at Harper. How do you make the transition from Los Angeles to Jonesboro, Arkansas?
It was one of the toughest things, man. I went from, 110 freeway traffic to hearing roosters and seeing all this land. And, I never even heard of Jonesboro, bro. It was wild, man. The only thing we had at the time was Walmart and that bowling alley. So I mean, it was a big culture shock for me, but
we still got both, by the way.
Right. But it was something that I needed, though. Being from where I come from, and then just, from the gang life and, being a part of that to actually making a transition and jump. And at times I have regrets because I felt like if I would have waited to sign, I probably would have went to Kansas State with Coach Snyder. I had other interests, but I looking back on it, I wouldn't have traded it for nothing, man, because as you stated, man, we started something, I mean, that was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe Steve Roberts brought you in. Is that right?
He did.
Yes.
You had that Coach Freeze was the OC. Coach Freeze was the OC when I came in. At first, it was Clay Helton from Memphis, and I was the first one in his office. Me and Ryan Appleton, we were going over the plays because he had everything drawn up for me. Then a day later, he was at USC. So that's when I kind of learned how coaching worked. It's a hire and fire business, So Steve immediately brought Hugh Freeze in, and the rest was history.
We want to ask you a little bit about Hugh Freeze. We were talking a little bit about some past coaches from the Sun Belt. Hugh Freeze was one of them. Hugh Freeze, that was his first college gig as a head coach in college. What was he like at that point? He came in with all this sort of background, and then he really did a great job of leading that team to 10 victories. Tell me a little bit about Hugh Freeze and what it was like playing for him.
Man, it's like the father that I never had, to be honest. I always had an attitude and a chip on my shoulder because of where I come from, and I'll never forget it was a situation where, we had 5 a.m. with Coach Arcee, and I was just not feeling it. It was just one of those days. And Coach Freeze came up to me and he asked me an honest question. He was saying, Frampton, how many of your friends or comrades back at home, are dead or in jail? And I said, a lot of them. Why? And he said, how many of them do you think would love to trade places with you? And that's I remember that 10 years later. You know what I mean? He is the reason why I've grown to appreciate things. He is the reason why I talk to God often. He told me I have not because I asked not. So I asked God to allow me to be top 10 in the nation when my senior year is done. Though I got hurt, I finished 9th in the country. You know what I mean? So he had a lot to do with my personal development as a young man. And maybe one day I could go coach for him.
That would be perfect. That would be great. Are you still in contact?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, of course. We talk often. Yes, sir.
So you had said something that had really kind of piqued my interest, and this might pique the interest of Ben and Dusty too, since they're so connected with this sort of recruiting world. You talked about that there's a lot of I don't know, because college football is such big business now. With big business that attracts con men and fraud and stuff. How difficult is it for a kid who has talent, who's good at playing football or good at playing any sport really, could get a scholarship, maybe not very sophisticated in that landscape? How easy it is it for them to be conned in some way?
Oh, that's exactly one of the primary reasons why I got back into the sport, because it's happening too much. You know what I mean? It's a repetitive cycle as of late of give me 10 grand, 20 grand. I'll take your kid to take all of these pictures. And he's going to get an offer, but it's not going to be committable. But they don't tell the parents that. They just see, look, I did what I said I was going to do. Now I can't help if the school doesn't accept it. This coach left. It's so bad, man. And now you have this transfer portal, where it's no safety for nobody, so it kind of dampens the skill set of the senior in high school, because a coach, for example, Lincoln Riley has done a great job at getting the transfers because he's expected to rent effective immediately. All of these coaching changes, has come, and they would rather get an athlete, in my opinion, who's already primed and ready, versus a young kid that they got to kind of develop, which they would have to anyway. I'm just saying right now it's much easier. So it hurts the 22s, not more so junior colleges, in a way, but more so the high school kids who are talented enough, but don't get a fair shake.
So you're a guy that never always got the fair shake there, but went to Arkansas State, straight out the gate, 700 yards, 6 touchdowns, honorary all Sun Belt. What was it that you did that really made yourself stand out during your time at Arkansas State?
Great question. I consumed myself with football. I was consumed. I essentially, I remember, I'll never forget, we played FAU, and it was a day game. It was at 12. And man, I stayed up there and I just kept running routes on air, and all of my teammates, DeMario, Ryan, Philip Butterfield, Kelsey McCray, Joe. Everybody was just like, Framp, go home. And I'm like, no, I'm not going home. I want to go feed my family. I want to go to the NFL. So I consumed myself. I watched film every day. I learned how to break it down from Exos. I made the trainer use a jug machine after games, before games. I lost myself in it, man. And I think it served me well. It was a bit of a gift and a curse because I overtrained, so I was hurt. But I didn't care at the time, man. The yards and everything, when I got them and all of the accolades from being on the Fred Blintnikoff Award watch list and everything else, I wasn't surprised because of the work that I put in.
All that work. What's your favorite memory at Arkansas State? What's the one game that you still remember to this day?
All of them, man. But if I had to say, oh Lord, of course, scoring at first against Auburn, of course. But I would say just the college football atmosphere, that sticks out to me the most. And it was so loud in there was we played Virginia Tech my senior year. And it was third down, man. And J-Ron Hosey was on Jarbo and Kyle Fuller and Antoine Exum were bracketing me. And it was 3rd and 10, and it was so loud. I couldn't hear myself think. I think about that often, and I tell my son that, you next. You next. It's a feeling, man, that you can't describe.
Yeah, I remember that game. We should have won that game.
We should have. We was up. I don't know what happened, man.
I'm still bitter about it. Yeah,
Me too.
Frampton had tremendous games. In fact, I remember just being on Twitter, our favorite platform, and anytime Frampton made a big catch, I'd have to shout, "Frampton comes alive!" So
there it is. There it is.
It was always great to watch you in action. It was always tremendous. Ben, did you have a question? Because you were.
Yeah, no, I was gonna, good to meet you. And I work with 24/7 Sports, and I echo what you said. Just specifically about telling these young people, and I talk to the parents and these kids all the time about the difference between even coaches keeping them warm versus a committable offer. We see that a lot, hearing from them, and they're blowing me up, and they're sending me mail, they're sending me pictures I can throw on my Instagram, trying to let them know, look, they probably are doing that to about 35 other kids as well. So, asking, hey, do you have an offer? Is it committable? If I wanted to commit today, that's critical information. And honestly, if you have a coach that says no, or hey, if I wanted to commit, is this offer committable? If I want to commit to you right now, will you take my offer? And they say no. Well, you probably need to move on, because they're waiting to somewhere else. There's a different board and being able.
Yes, sir.
I think your message is a big one. Obviously, you went through that process, and obviously the impact that you have. And I wanted to, obviously we can get to it either now or later, but plug yourself as well. I just found you on Twitter and followed you there. Looks like you also got a foundation as well to plug where folks can find you, because we are worldwide, obviously here on the World Wide Web. So folks, that they can get in touch with you and kind of get what you're doing and what you're doing for young people, certainly 22s, 23s moving forward.
Yes, sir. 100%. And again, I'm not against, like, for the 25s, 24s, I'm not against them even getting something that's probably not committable just to get the ball rolling for them. I kind of respect that too, because you know how it goes, man. You work for 24/7 Sports. I know you know how it goes, where this kid is overlooked, that kid is overlooked, and he's damn good. He could be extremely talented, but he just didn't have that extra push. So that's where I come in. I get up at 5 a.m. in the morning, man, and I hit up all of my contacts, and by God's good grace and favor upon me, I did well in the college ranks, so I'm respected, in that world. You know what I mean? So when I need something done, I'm not going to give anybody a product that isn't worth it. These men provide for their family with this job. So if they bringing in something, it got to be right as well. You know what I mean? That's like if I called you, like, hey, brother, can I get my guy these stars? And be like, Frampton, it's trash. Hell no. You know what I mean? I have to respect that, but I would never send you no ill product. So, I definitely understand what you're saying, sir. Definitely.
I had one request from you. You're still there. Okay. I had one request from you. I was wondering if you can give a little bit of advice to parents out there who has a son or a daughter who's being recruited. And a lot of times you'll get people come up and go, hey, I'll shoot you a video. It'll cost $500, but you got to have it for Huddle. Or I can get you in contact with these coaches if you kind of let me represent you. What's your biggest advice that you have for parents who really don't know how to navigate this landscape?
Great point, brother. I think, and again, I'm just going to speak just for my little time being back into this wave of the football portion, because I don't know the infinitesimal rulings. You know what I mean? I don't know everything about it, but what I will tell them is they need to get more involved with the recruiting process. If it's not a dead period, the parents, in my opinion, need to reach out to the coaches. They need to find somebody that they trust who has been through the Division I ranks from a recruiting perspective, actually signing the national letter of intent, understanding, like the man just said, is this offer committable? If Nick Saban called my phone today and said, Frank, we want to offer this kid, and I know it was Nick, that's committable because Nick called my phone. Then I'll tell the parent. It needs to be more handlers who've been through this experience to lead these parents if they're blind to it. The language I know is not colloquial, it's obtuse to them. So they may not be, abreast or up to speed with how it works. So again, my advice to them in a nutshell would just be to find somebody that you can trust that's more involved, who's been there, who's done that, not just from a coach. It's a lot of coaches who don't even know how to coach. They're just there because they got invited from their old family member, or they got grandfathered into the society. They don't even know how to teach. I see a lot of coaches, man, you can't, respectfully, man, golly, that's like me going to University of Indiana to coach with Coach Tom Allen, but I'm a kickers coach. What? it doesn't work. I'm not going to be able to teach them how to kick the ball. That's not my thing. But you're seeing that a lot. So, like I said, and what does that mean for the parents? Just being more involved, be more proactive. Don't just leave it on the kid and these 7-on-7 clubs and coaches. Don't do that. You call, you pick up the phone. This is your child's future, because I remember what it was like. And if somebody tells me at 17 years old and my dreams and aspirations are go to college, and you telling me come the 25th of December, if I handle all of my grades, I went to summer school, that I can't leave because this offer that you promised me I could get is not committable. Dude, that sucks, man. That's playing with a kid's future.
With all that said, though, there's still a lot of stigma about, oh, well, that kid went to junior college, or he's going D2 or NAIA.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I have a son that's a student athlete, wants to get into the coaching side, but when he was still wanting to play, if they're paying the bills, it doesn't matter what level it is. Now, I know D3, you're not getting as much scholarship money. There's technically no scholarship money, but you're all on the academic side. What have you seen there where you've helped kids even get to these quote unquote lower levels that are still getting the bills paid?
Man, listen, 2 + 2 is 4. So is 3 + 1. So is 5 - 1. So is 2 × 2. Damn it. Go to school. We're not getting caught up. Well, at least for me, I don't get caught up in all of that stuff, man. You're giving yourself an opportunity to have new experiences. Life is short. You create new memories. Whether you got to go JUCO, I thank God for junior college, because it made me more mature. It made me understand that I'm on my own. I think a majority of kids, if they don't have 2-parent homes or an uncle or a father figure, I think that JUCO will be the best thing for them, in my opinion, man. And then it's a free education, man. Go, who cares? Pierre Garçon went to a D3 and got drafted. He got drafted out of there. So the NFL's job is to come to find you. That's what they get paid for. So I wouldn't be opposed. Now, of course, we all want to play in front of 90,000. I get it. I was fortunate enough to do so, but that's not for everybody. And you get more dogs at lower level division schools than you get, at Division I schools, because once you get there, everybody feel like they made it, and they don't have aspirations. Well, at least from my experiences, a lot of people don't have aspirations to go play in the NFL. So complacency kicks in, So yeah, no, I love it, man. I love the grind. I love the dog days. I love the North Dakota States of the world, and the HBCUs. Dion has done a great job in switching that wave. Changing that outlook on how that should be looked at. So no, I love it, brother.
Dwayne, do you have first of all, great interview. Thank you very much for all your time. Thanks for all the input. That's just great advice for anybody who's trying to navigate this sort of complex and sometimes sinister world of recruiting.
Right.
Do you have something that you would like to plug real quick?
Not necessarily, man. Just tell all these athletes, man, to just continue to keep God first. Keep working. Don't stop the work.
But what's the name of your foundation?
My foundation is called the Frampton Foundation. It's where I essentially take young men and teach them to be better than they were yesterday. Teach them to be better than me. Take them out. We have manhood hours. We go clean up. We go give to the homeless. Just a lot of stuff, man, that I wasn't privileged to have. If I would have had a me, my life, I would have went through things that weren't so detrimental mentally that I'm paying for it now. You know what I'm saying? But I just want to tell the kids out there, man, to keep God first and remember him in prosperity so he could, remember you in adversity, because it's going to happen,
One last thing I have for you. Your quarterback, Ryan Applin, he's now coaching at Georgia Southern. What's the scoop you got on this? What can we, when we talk to Ryan Applin, what can we bring up to where he knows we were talking with Frampton?
I'm open.
Always.
That's
always open.
That's all you got to tell him. You tell him like, hey, who was the guy at Arkansas State who used to just always say, I'm open. I don't care if it's double coverage, triple, just throw the damn ball. I'm open, dude.
He's gonna say Josh Jarabo or
me and Jarbo was about to fight so many times.
Jason McKissick.
It was all love too. But I was like, shut up. I'm quicker than you. I'm faster. He was like, man, you little. I'm like, so what? Look at the stats. I mean, but I tell App,
Stockamer.
Stock can just calm me down. Stock is my Michael Phelps. He'll say, Framp, let's go swim. Let's just relax.
All right, Dwayne Frampton, thank you very much for the interview.
Yes, sir. Thank you, gentlemen.
We appreciate it. You're a legend of the Sun Belt. We've been interviewing legends of the Sun Belt for the last few months, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys, man. Continue to pay it forward.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Dwayne. Good luck with the foundation, man. Take care. That was awesome, dude. Good get, Jeremy.
It wasn't me. It was
Dusty. Sorry, you said it found
Dusty Thibodeaux reaching out into my backyard and grabbing guys. Wow.
He's got quite a bit of following. And I will tell you, I mean, he's got pictures with freeze and different things like that. I'm interested if somebody, and especially a former coach, comes and grabs them and it's hard to coach wide receivers. You certainly want somebody of his caliber to.
Oh, definitely. And his
young
story
people, and knowing his character just from obviously talking to him there. He seems to got his priorities in shape, and there's people out there that do it. There's an article, I didn't even send it to you guys, but one of the Georgia State former running backs in the early aughts of the season that ended up getting kicked off in Trent Miles' early seasons, of the guys that's attached to these D1 prospects, D1 recruiting, who, hey, send me $2,500 via Venmo and I'll get you offers, or I'll get you this, or I'll get you this, or I'll get you on this list and get you on that. And then he ghosts people.
Yeah.
I can tell you, because I know the kid and I've talked to him. Daddy was a truck driver. Mom, non-existent, had her own issues. The kid's basically been on his own since he was like 13 or 14 years old. He was a train wreck. And I'm not stunned that he's doing that and he's being associated with it. And the worst part about it, I mean, from what people have told him, I think USA Today or somebody has jumped in there and done the interview, and it's several $100,000. Like there will be legal action that comes across to this kid because they've promised all this stuff. And
it's funny. I said, that victims of this can be sort of people that aren't quite sophisticated, don't know the ropes of these things, but it happens to just about everybody. And it doesn't just about football. My son played lacrosse, and in lacrosse, especially in the South, you can have moderate skills and get D3. Not like Dusty said, you can't get a scholarship for D3, but you can work out a scholarship for academics that kind of works the way. There's ways to do it, but he was getting offers, and there were people like saying, well, you got to get film, and you gotta have somebody representing you in some ways. And I got some secret information that for $250 you could have to get you into the inside world of scholarships and stuff. It's a big business, and it can be a big con business if you aren't looking out for yourself. I think the best advice I ever heard was just stick with your high school coach. Let the high school coach kind of do it.
I disagree.
Yeah, I do too, because you have to understand the high school coaches a lot of times also are teaching other classes as well. They don't have a lot of time.
Okay.
I can speak for me. Again, I didn't play football. I played basketball in high school. My head basketball coach had a full load of teaching basically, and wasn't the football coach in Georgia. So you're not the athletic director. You're not getting So the tough part for him is you can't go actively, pedal your kids out. Right. And now, yes, you have recruiting liaisons, and that's who I a lot of times communicate with at these schools. When I go out in the fall, I'll go hit 5, 6, 7 high schools and go see fall practice and see kids and things like that, guys that maybe are a little undervalued, but it's extremely difficult right now. And especially when you think about a football roster, right? Even at the high school level, you're 40, 50, 60 kids, even sometime and more, where trying to get that film out constantly, it's difficult. It's why you see these trainers and these 7-on-7 teams come in and the really, really even, not even elite talent, not the 5-star guys, but I live locally where Cam Newton has a 7-on-7 and he has, it's a pretty strong following. He's in with a lot of trainer groups and groups that way. And I have heard kind of in the rumor circle, if you're not in with them, you don't have access to those athletes and you will not sign them.
But before we wrap this up and say maybe we're taking a little hiatus next week, Dusty, give me your best pitch or plug.
Exciting times. As always, Warhawks 2-0 over the weekend, looking to build on that momentum as they get ready to host the Texas schools. Active message boards on warhawkreport.com, and always looking forward to it. Also follow us on Twitter at FunBelt PC.
Definitely. More people, the better. How about you, Ben? What you got?
Yeah, Panthers, as we talked about a little earlier, 3 of 4, now go to the Carolinas to face the defending Sun Belt title representatives of the Sun Belt to play in the NCAA tournament. They're a little bit of revenge game there up in Boone on Saturday. But first, a trip to Cliff Ellis and Coastal Carolina, the Chanticleers. As we know, they can be pesky, as the Sea Chickens, as I like to call them lovingly. So it should be fun there. And obviously still a couple scholarships left for Sean Elliott and the Panthers on the football side of things. And there could be a signee this week. We'll see. A little tease there. Still waiting on one guy to potentially send his letter of intent in. He was hoping to take a visit in January. Did not happen. And he comes from the prep school ranks. So that means he's got a little extra football in his career. So tune in to PantherTalk.com for the very latest.